Welcome back to the Nomad's Notebook podcast. As always, my name is Joe Maxwell. I apologize if I'm feeling a little congested or sounding a little congested rather today. I'm coming off a little cold. I've had like 3 colds in the past 3 months. I don't know why. I went like 2 years without ever getting sick, and here this last year it's been wild. But yeah, what you gonna do about it, right? Just drink a lot of vitamin C and get through it. I do wonder if maybe getting sick. I came back from a trip to Mexico recently, and I wonder if the travel had something to do with my illness now. Maybe. I don't know. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that trip and a takeaway from that experience that hopefully is going to help you a little bit in your own life. So I went to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for just at a week exactly. And I wanted something a little bit different than a traditional resort. I almost just booked an all-inclusive traditional resort, but I thought I might get a little bored at those places. I certainly have in the past. So I wanted something alternative, I guess. So I found kind of a yoga retreat in Puerto Vallarta there. The first thing was there was only one other man there, and it was a group of like 20 people, and he was with his girlfriend. I thought I don't know. Yoga seems to appeal more to women. I can understand why. I consider myself a masculine guy in a lot of ways, but I do think there are a lot of benefits to yoga. So I don't know. I've never cared that it's mostly majority women, but I had expected there to be maybe 4 or 5 guys there. There wasn't. No big deal. I ended up getting my own room, and I'd paid for a shared room because they weren't going to put me with a female. So kind of worked out for the best. But I won't tell you everything about the resort. I did a whole separate vlog on that, so I can link that in the description if you want to check that out, but that's not really the point of today's episode. The main thing I want to tell you about is a couple of experiences I had along that trip. So I met a girl at the resort the second day in. We kind of did an exercise together where they would have you pair up with someone and you would open up to them just about your life and build a connection really quickly and kind of have some physical connection too. So it was really interesting. We kind of just jumped in and we really enjoyed talking together. Now, this girl, drop dead gorgeous, like 10 out of 10, supermodel, like you can't stop staring at her kind of thing. So I knew I was a little bit out of my league, but I also had an advantage because there wasn't really any other viable options at the time. I think she was working through some things, and maybe looking for a new experience. And I was there and I was available. And, I'm maybe not a 10 out of 10, but I'm not so bad looking. So I told her I was going to rent a motorcycle towards the end of the retreat just because I was getting bored. And she'd ridden on motorcycles before. She seemed not really too bothered by risky activities like that. So she tagged along and we had a really good time. We did motorcycling one day and then an ATV adventure the next day. And I got to know her a little bit, kind of some of her story, and just really enjoyed spending time with a girl that attractive. I don't think there was really long-term potential there for a couple reasons. I'm not going to go into all the details there. But I did realize after spending a couple days with her, she wasn't all that into me. And it kind of takes some objectivity to be able to look at the world that way and just realize things for what they are. But I realized it. I wasn't surprised, right? Because she was a little bit older, and with her attractiveness, she's probably dating guys who are further along in their path than me, more wealthy than I am, maybe better looking than I am, maybe in better shape than I am. So it wasn't too much of a surprise. But all the same, I was good to just spend time with a hot girl for a couple days in Mexico, right? Like there's nothing wrong with doing that. So that was one side of the experience. Kind of, that was for what it was. Nothing's going to come of it, but it's a cool story to tell. We had some fun. On the plane ride home, I nearly missed my connection. I'm sprinting to my plane, and I end up getting there with a couple minutes to spare, and it left me with the feeling that I need to start doing a lot more cardio. So I'm going to be doing that, but make my plane. As I'm checking into the flight, there's this really just bubbly young lady there, and she introduces herself to me. She noticed that I had, almost puked. By how much I'd had to exert myself to get to the plane. So she started up a conversation like, hey, you doing okay? And I was like, yeah, I just, I had to get to my flight and was rushing from my last connection. But she was really nice. And we had this great conversation. We ended up like swapping seats. So we sat together on the entire plane ride home. And for several hours, we just talked about literally anything. And it was a really interesting connection. I don't think that one's going to go anywhere either. Just, I don't know, a whole other topic, but relationships are a lot of work. But anyway, it was a really good connection for what it was. And I could tell within 2 minutes of meeting her that she was really interested in me. She found me attractive. We parted ways after the plane ride and we exchanged contact information. She texted me basically instantaneously. And there was no doubt in my mind that there was a connection there and that she was deeply attracted to me. Whereas with the other girl, at first I just wasn't sure. Like I felt like I couldn't read the situation, but my end conclusion was that she just wasn't that interested in me. And that's okay. That's my takeaway from this little experience here, is that there shouldn't be, when you're dating women, and I assume I'm going to be mostly speaking to men in this, but speaking to women too, if you're dating anyone, there shouldn't be any ambiguity about how the other person feels about you. In that case, they're probably not that into you and there probably isn't that much potential there. It should just be clear cut that you know they're interested in you and that there's a potential of things going forward. The takeaway here is when you're dating, find people that naturally gravitate towards who you are legitimately, not some front that you're putting on. And that's, again, a whole other conversation, but just being honest and truthful when you're dating. Find people who gravitate towards who you genuinely are as a person, and then zero in on those people. Like, don't waste your time with people who are only half interested in you, because you're not really doing yourself any service in doing that. You need to focus on people who prioritize you and who gravitate towards your energy. It might be a little hard to find if you're kind of a more unique individual like I am, but those people are out there. Go find them and build amazing, lasting connections with people.